Calm parenting sounds simple until you're already spiraling and your child is escalating. You're raising your voice, they're melting down, and nothing you say is working. And the more frustrated you get, the worse it gets. Here's what nobody tells you. That's not a willpower problem, that's neuroscience. Your child is not misbehaving in these moments. Their brain is in full-on survival mode, and the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and reasoning and self-control, has essentially gone offline. And here's the part that changes everything. Research shows that children's brains, as they're developing, cannot return to a regulated state on their own. They need a calm, connected adult to help get them there. This is called co-regulation. And once you understand how it works, you'll stop fighting against your child's biology, start working with it. Today, I'm going to give you 5 research-backed strategies to co-regulate with your child in real time so you can move from reactive and exhausted to calm and in control. Let's do this. Strategy 1 might surprise you because it's not something you do in the moment, it's something you understand. Because when you understand why something works, you're actually going to use it. Co-regulation is the process by which a regulated nervous system helps calm a dysregulated one. Think of it this way. Your child's brain is still under construction. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for emotional control, impulse regulation, and rational thinking, doesn't fully mature until around age 25. That means for the first 2+ decades of life, children are literally borrowing regulation capacity from the adults around them, especially during their younger years. Psychologist Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory explains the biological mechanism behind this. Your nervous system communicates through facial expressions, tone of voice, and even your posture. When you're calm, your social engagement system sends signals of safety to everyone around you, including your child. When you're flooded and reactive, it sends the opposite signal, and their brain escalates in response. This is why screaming, "Calm down," almost never works. Your words are saying calm, but your nervous system is saying danger, and their brain listens to the nervous system every time. The good news, the reverse is also true. When you regulate, they can regulate. You are the most powerful tool in your parenting toolkit, and you carry it everywhere you go. Now that you know the science, here's strategy 2, and it might feel counterintuitive. Your job in a meltdown is to regulate yourself before you address your child. It's like when you're on an airplane getting ready for takeoff, and they tell you, in case of emergency, put your oxygen mask on first and then assist your child with theirs. I hear from parents in the Amazing Parents Club all the time, but Dr. Lindsay, my child needs me right now. And I understand that feeling completely. But here's the truth. A dysregulated parent cannot co-regulate a dysregulated child. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot transmit calm if you don't have it. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like taking one slow, visible breath before you respond. It looks like consciously softening your face and lowering your shoulders. It looks like dropping your voice slower and slower. Even when every instinct says to match their volume, this isn't about suppressing your feelings. Now, it's about choosing your nervous system state intentionally so that your body can do what your child's brain needs it to do. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be perfect at this. Research on maternal responsiveness shows that what matters most is not being regulated 100% of the time. It's showing your child a pattern of repair. Every time you catch yourself, breathe, and return to your calm, you're modeling the exact skill that you want them to build. Strategy 3 is one of the most biologically powerful tools you have, and it requires 0 words. Get close. Research on what's called social buffering consistently shows that a calm caregiver's physical presence measurably reduces cortisol, the body's stress hormone, in children. This works even in infants. Skin-to-skin contact, a hand on the back, sitting close enough that your child can feel your body heat. These are not just comforting gestures, they are neurological interventions. Picture this, your child is on a walk with you and your neighbor's dog runs up barking. To you, it's a goofy, harmless dog. To your 3-year-old, it's absolutely terrifying. They freeze, they burst into tears. In that moment, their nervous system has gone into full threat response, and they need you to be the signal that they're safe. So you get close, you kneel down, you put a hand on their back, And then, and this is important, you keep your words simple and calm. Mommy's here. You're safe. I'll take care of you. That's it. Not a lecture about why the dog is friendly, not stop crying. Just presence, touch, and a few grounding words repeated softly until their body starts to believe it. Now, you might be tempted to say, it's okay, and sometimes that's exactly right. But here is a small but meaningful distinction. If your child is genuinely frightened or hurting, saying it's okay when it doesn't feel okay can accidentally dismiss what they're experiencing. So in those moments, you're safe or I'm right here lands more accurately and more effectively on a dysregulated nervous system. When your child is dysregulated, move towards them, not to lecture, not to fix, not to explain, just to be present. Your regulated nervous system, communicated through warmth, proximity, and a few calm words, gives their brain that safety signal it needs to start coming back online. Then, and only then, can you address what actually happened. Here's strategy 4, and it feels a little counterintuitive, but it's incredibly effective. Before you try to calm your child, briefly acknowledge where they are emotionally. This is called match then lead, and it's the difference between feeling understood and feeling dismissed. Think about Ed Tronick's still face experiment. In this classic research paradigm, a parent was instructed to go suddenly expressionless and unresponsive while interacting with their infant. Within seconds, the babies began showing signs of distress, reaching out, fussing, trying desperately to reconnect. When the parent re-engaged warmly, the babies recovered. What this tells us is that children are exquisitely attuned to emotional connection. When we respond to a screaming child by immediately going calm and quiet, it can actually feel jarring, like the emotional equivalent of the still face. Their nervous system hasn't been met yet. So instead, try briefly mirroring the energy, not the dysregulation of the moment. I can see you are so upset right now. That felt really big. A slightly more animated tone, a warm face, full eye contact, just enough to say, I see you. Then gradually and intentionally shift towards calm, slower speech, softer expression, quieter voice. You're essentially leading them down from the emotional peak, but you started by meeting them where they were. That's the difference between dismissing and co-regulating. Here's a simple everyday example. Your child trips and falls in the backyard. They're not seriously hurt, but they're startled and upset. Watch how 2 different responses land. First, overreaction. Oh no, are you okay? Come here, let me see. Your voice is high, your face is alarmed, and now their nervous system reads your panic as confirmation that something is very wrong. The crying escalates. Instead, match then lead. Ouch, you took a tumble, said warmly, calmly, with a steady face. As you move towards them, you acknowledge what happened. You've met them in the moment without amplifying it. Then you kneel down, check them over, and lead them gently back to calm. Let's take a look. You're okay. I've got you. Same fall, completely different nervous system outcome. The first response matches and amplifies. The second matches and leads. That's the skill. And once you see it, you'll start noticing opportunities to use it everywhere. Strategy 5 is one that sets you up for success long before the meltdown ever happens. Create a co-regulation ritual you practice together during calm moments. Here's why this matters so much. When your child's brain is dysregulated, it cannot learn new skills in that moment. But if you've practiced something together when they're calm, a breathing pattern, a sensory anchor, a specific phrase, that pathway becomes available even when emotions are high. This is rooted in the research of what Vygotsky called the zone of proximal development, the idea that children can accomplish more in partnership with a skilled adult than they can alone. Co-regulation is that partnership. You're not just calming them in the moment, you're building the neural scaffolding that will eventually allow them to self-regulate. Ideas for rituals are trying a star breathing together. So you trace the 5 points of a star while breathing in and out, or a specific song that you sing when things feel big, or a designated cozy corner in your home that carries associations of safety and calm. Parents in the Amazing Parents Club had had incredible success with simple rituals like these. When kids know what the calm down plan is, they feel safer when big emotions hit, and they start reaching for the tools before you even offer it. Practice it on Tuesday afternoon when everybody's fine. It pays dividends on the hard Fridays. One mom I coached shared that after just a few weeks of practicing their calm down corner routine together, she noticed her 6-year-old starting to walk there on his own when he felt himself getting upset, before she even said a word. That's not just co-regulation anymore. That's the beginning of self-regulation. And it started with just 5 minutes of practice on a quiet Wednesday afternoon. Here's what I want you to take away from today. Co-regulation is not a parenting strategy that requires perfection. It's a biological process that you activate simply by doing the work to regulate yourself. Your child's brain is under construction. It's going to need your help coming back to calm for years. And that's not a failure of discipline or a weakness in your child. It's a developmental science. Calm parenting isn't about being perfect. It's about being regulated enough to be the bridge. You're not supposed to have a child who can do this alone yet. You're supposed to be the bridge. And every single time that you pause, breathe, move closer, and meet your child in that hard moment with calm and connection, you're doing something profound. You're literally building their brain's capacity for self-regulation. The patience you're choosing today is the self-control they'll have tomorrow. You're not just surviving these moments, you're building something that lasts. If this resonated with you and you want to go deeper, I have something I'd love for you to watch next. I created a free parenting reset workshop. It's a full training where I walk you through my complete research-backed framework, the one that I use with parents in the Amazing Parents Club. So you can move from reactive and overwhelmed to calm and confident consistently, not just on the good days. You'll walk away with a clear understanding of why your child does what they do and exactly what to do about it. You can watch it here. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with a parent who needs to hear this today. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.